Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. All right. It's good to see everybody. Watch our attendee count kind of jump up here. All right. We're going to get this going. This is being recorded. So thank you to everybody who is coming in live. This is our Q1 2025 Joint DBE Task Force and Workshop kind of combined into one. So thank you everyone for making the time to attend. My name is Rebecca Morris. I'm the president and the founder of the Arizona Builders Exchange. We're your DBE Task Force consultant, event planning consultant on this one. So while we kind of get going with our introductions, please do feel free to use the chat. The chat is kind of awesome. It's really, really fun to kind of see everybody's greetings and see who all is here. Feel free to do the virtual networking thing. You can drop in your name, your company, contact information if you choose, and just, see who else here. So great to see kind of the chat firing up. Lorraine has already gotten a really good survey in there. So if you wanted to complete an optional survey, you could certainly do that. And before we turn it over to our topics and our updates from ADOT, I would like to just point out a couple things with Zoom. You do have the ability to chat, like I mentioned. You're welcome to use that for virtual networking. You're welcome to ask questions of the speakers. And so if you do use the Q&A, that's a little bit better if there's like a pure question about, hey, you said this, or I have a question about this topic. If you could please use the Q&A instead of the chat, the Q&A kind of holds it in a spot we can see it a lot better. So the chat just kind of rolls, which is awesome. Really fun to see everybody. Good morning, Alexa and Trace, Madison, Diane. Really great to see everybody kind of saying hello over there. But the Q&A will actually help us make sure we don't miss a question. So definitely use that. We will be sending out the recording as well as all the slide decks. So there's an enormous amount of content that will be discussed today and presented. You'll get the slides. So everybody will get the slide deck. We should get those out today. So whatever you're looking for, if there's some kind of question, or if you want to just refer to those slide decks, you will definitely have the opportunity to do so. So with that, I will say thank you again so much for joining us this morning. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'd like to invite Mesa Hanna with the Deputy State Engineer for ADOT. Mesa, could you turn your camera on and your microphone on? Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, I'm going to step into the background, and Mesa, please take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Mesa Hanna, Deputy State Engineer. Unfortunately, Greg is not feeling well today, so I'm filling in for him. And I would like to share with you a few updates. So let me share my presentation here. All right, so I think one of the things that I think it's important to you, it's important to us, is what's coming up in the 5-year program. Right now, we just have presented the 5-year tentative program to the State Transportation Board, and actually it's ready to go out on the street for public comments on probably mid-March. So watch for it. That's coming up very soon. So after the public comment, we take the comments, we try to answer each and every one of them, and we usually have a final approval by the State Transportation Board right before we start the new fiscal year. What do we have in, okay, let me lower that. What do we have in the long-range transportation plan? Like what you can see right now, 70, I'm sorry. Okay. What you can see right now is that we have certain categories that we are focusing on using our budget, which are reservation, modernization, and expansion. So you will see very, very clearly that the preservation is taking a big portion of our funding. It's about 78%, and we're talking about $23 billion over the 5-year program from 2026 all the way to 2030. For our modernization, it's about 15%. It's $4.6 billion going toward modernization over the 5-year, and about 7% or $2.1 billion going for the expansion. And when we're talking about preservation here, I think we're going to have to keep focus on our bridges and our pavement. And this will give you, I'm not going to go word for word, so you know what we are looking for. We are looking for good, fair, and poor condition. And definitely we have to address the poor condition before we go to the fair or to the good, as the budget allows. That will give you kind of a quick snap, a snapshot of what we're looking for in Arizona. And you can see very clearly that we are lucky, like for our bridges, the majority are in a very good condition. And definitely we have some fair and we have some poor condition that we like to address as soon as we have the funding available. Same apply for our pavement condition as well. This is another screenshot of what you're going to see in our 5-year program that will go out on the street in mid-March. Like what we have in each year, planned for each year. Like for 2026, we have 984 about $1 million going toward preservation, and about 181 going toward the modernization, and 555 going toward the other categories. So it's very clear here that we have, like for the greater Arizona, outside the Maricopa and the Pima County, we have about $4.47 billion going over the 5 years in the greater Arizona. It's 50% of our funding going toward greater Arizona. And for the Maricopa, it's for the Maricopa, we have $2.37 billion. For the Pinal County, it's about $0.83 billion. That is kind of another way to summarize what we're talking about. 50% allocated or programmed by the board, primarily in the greater Arizona, or another word, outside the Maricopa and Pima County. Those will go toward the state highway system. And will go toward the local and others, like maybe county, maybe town, other project funded by the program. So here, this is another snapshot of what we have for the preservation. All greater Arizona, we have 63.2%. And we are talking here, like in every year, you look at 2026, we have $542 million, 2027, $437 million, and so on. If you look at the modernization, it is the same concept that we are using over the 5 year, and they are getting about 13.5%. And for the expansion, we're talking about 23.2%. And like I mentioned, this is in the greater Arizona, not in Maricopa or Pinal County. Let's look at some of the expansion projects that we have for the greater Arizona. If you look at the map that you see right now, you can see that uh, um, we have some preservation projects, and we also have some expansion projects. You see the projects on 260, project on 93, project on I-40, I-10, 85, and 80. So all these projects, are in our program, 5-year program. So definitely, almost all these projects will have a goal for DBE. So please open your eyes on those projects going out. You look at the 2027, we still have 260, 93, 17, and 80. And as you can see here, for projects going, you can see a lot in preservation, pavement rehab, or bridge rehab. So keep your eyes on those ones. You look at the 2028, we still have 260, 93, and 17 on the map. And we're talking here about $113 million dedicated toward these routes. You look at the 2029, we have I-40, we have I-17, and we have $137 million going toward those routes. And like you can see here, we're talking about widening project. We're talking about like Sunset Point construction project. This is I-17 from Sunset Point to SR 69. You look at the 2030, we have some expansion project. We're talking about $83 million. And like you can see on the map here, we have I-17 from milepost 298 to milepost 314. This is still going to be in design. And the Sunset Point, the I-17 from Sunset Point to SR 69, this is going to be under construction for the second year. And like I mentioned, all these projects have some goals for DBEs. Right here, this is probably just a distribution by district of our by district. So you can see what's going here toward the Maricopa, what's going toward Pima. This is by the county, and it's very much showing like a year by year. Maybe this is not something that we need to focus on for this. Let me run quickly because I know I don't have that much time. This is a quick link for the tentative program. Please go to the link, open it, look at what we have in that link, and you will be able to see a lot of projects coming down the line, and what's going to be in the greater Arizona, what's going to be in MAG, and what's going to be in PAG. Again, over the 5 year, for example, like for the Maricopa, we have about $2.38 billion in projects, total in projects, 37% allocated for the ADOT route. And as you know, those are primarily expansion projects. Of course, with the passage of Prop 479, Maricopa is currently working on updating their freeway program. So you will be able to see all the changes as they updated in their program. You look at the I-10 Wild Horse Pass, and this is a huge work going over like 4 projects. We have the I-10 Gila River Indian Community Project from Loop 202 to the Gila River. And we have the I-10 bridge over the Gila River. We have the I-10 Gila River bridge to the gas line. And we also have the I-10 gas line road to the south of SR 387. We are talking here about big, huge projects being carried out by the alternative delivery team. And as you can see here, some of those are like the Gila River Bridge replacement. You can see the I-10 corridor widening. You can see some work on crossroads. You can see interchanges being built. So it's a big, huge effort taking place right now. You look at the Pima County, we over the 5-year program, we have $831.7 million, 13% allocated for ADOT routes in Pima County, programmed primarily by the PAG, and it's spread over the 5 years. Let's look at some of the important projects they have. It's still going on I-10, and this project is still in early stages. It's the Country Club and Keno Road TIs, and that's being administered by the South Central District. So we have reconstruction for the Keno TI. We are adding TI at Country Club, and we are widening I-10 from milepost 262 to 265. So we should have like 4 lanes at Keno. We have 3 lanes between Keno and Alvernon. So as you can see here, we have interchanges, we have crossroads being constructed here. This is basically the major projects going in the Pima County. You will be able to see from the presentation later on what's going on each route. Like what you can see now, we have the I-10 widening, we have the I-19 widening, we have I-19 Irvington TI, we have I-10 Alvernon Way to Valencia, and we also have I-10 at the Park Avenue and I-10 at 6th Avenue TI. We have some work on SR 86. So a lot of projects everywhere. So with all the projects, you'll be able to see some goals for the DBEs. And I think we have a very healthy, growing DBE participation over the years. I was able to see that. And probably if you have a presentation today by Kirsten, she'll be able to share that with you. We also have some airport capital improvement projects. Over the 5-year, we have programmed $135.2 million for these projects. Probably this is all the way from 2026 all the way to 2030. Some of this funded by FAA and some by the state and so on. So plenty of projects for you guys to participate in. So what are the next steps here? Actually, we are putting the 5-year program out to the public for comments mid-March. And then in June 5th, we are going to taking all those comments, address those comments, going back to the State Transportation Board with final draft. And in June 20th, we gonna get the final approval from the State Transportation Board on the program. That's very much all I have as far as the 5-year program. What else happening in ADOT? I know there has been some discussion about any changes that happening in our program, especially with the new administration. The one program that we know that is, I don't want to say on hold, but we got approval for phase one, is the Navy program. The Navy program, actually, we had phase one prior to the new administration, and we had approval for 8 projects. Under phase two, it's, very much kind of on hold right now. We don't know what they're gonna do with it, but we know there is no funding available for phase two, and we're talking about like 32 locations for electric stations for the Navy program. So I think more to come and more clarification to come from the FHWA division office. We are working very close with them to get any update, and so we can share it with you guys. On the personnel side, as you all know, and you're probably going to see that, Adra Mirik, she stepped in the Steve Boshin position. She is the division director for construction for PGO, project delivery and operation, instead of IDO, infrastructure development and operation. With the new fiscal year, we're going to call it project delivery and operation. And Iqbal is acting in the MPD, multi planning division. And we are also working on some it changes. Actually, it's implemented, but you're probably not going to see it on the ADOT map until probably the next fiscal year. We're no longer having a TISMO division. About 65 to 70% of the staff in this division moved into a new group. We call this group Transportation Technology Group, and this is everything has to do with lighting, signal, broadband, permits. So we are trying to combine all these teams together in one group so we can be prepared for the upcoming changes in the transportation needs. And at the same time, we align them together so we can achieve better efficiency and productivity. So that's very much in a nutshell what we have in as far as update from the state engineer office. That's all I have. I think that was
Asa, thank you
plenty.
so much. Oh, that was a lot. That was, I think, maybe even more than we expected. So thank you for that. Thank you for the slide deck. Again, everybody who is registered for the event will get the slide deck. And I very much appreciate you adding those comments at the end about internal changes. So thank you for that. Mesa, I'll invite you to step into the background if you'd like to turn your camera off.
I'm
And
probably going to have to apologize. I have to run to another meeting. So
all right.
thank you, everyone. And it was nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mesa. I appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
All right, so yes, if you'd like to step into the background, I can also help with that. Perfect, thank you. All right, and then I would like to invite Kirsten Houston with Contracts and Specs. Kirsten, are you able to turn your camera on and your microphone on?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. I'll step into the background and take it away, Kirsten.
All right, let's see if I can share my screen.
Looks great, we can see it.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I'm Kirsten Houston, the Contracts and Specifications Group Manager, and I'm here to give you a brief update on what's to come for projects. I think Mesa touched on things that are going to happen after this fiscal year. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen this fiscal year. All right, so June is the end of ADOT's fiscal year. As you may or may not know, we separate projects into quarters. So right now we are currently in our third quarter. We're in the last month which is March, of course. We have 20 as of today, we have 20 projects remaining to advertise just in the month of March. And then upcoming in the fourth quarter, which is your months April through June, we have 60 projects scheduled. So I'm going to navigate. I don't know, you all probably know all this, but for newcomers, I just want to show you how to get to things. Can you see the website now? Or are you still on the presentation?
Yes. No, we got it. Your sharing is perfect.
Okay, cool. So this is azdot.gov. You would navigate to business up here on the top middle. And then once that comes up, you go to the bottom and you go to contracts and specifications. So this is the site I'm going to talk about. Okay, so now we're back to my presentation. Here's the site. Some key things that I'm going to point out here is the future projects tab. It's a list of projects advertising in the next 2 quarters. So that can be helpful for your planning. And then of course we have our current advertisements. So these are advertisements that are out to bid right now. Okay, so then if you go to our current advertisements, you can see who the plan holders are. So this is where you can find out which primes are bidding on a project. And you can also register to be a prime or to be a sub on the project. So that's all through the current advertisements page. So how do you register? Or why would you register? So even if you're not going to be a prime, why would you register? It can offer you some more visibility. If you do want to register, you click on the register button here. And then that's going to take you to this site. And so if you wanted to be a prime, you would select the bidder option radio button. And if you want to be a sub or a vendor, you would select obviously the subcontractor or vendor button. So then what that's going to do is, I'm back to the current advertisements page. It's going to, if you go to the plan holders, which is this little document icon, whatever you want to call it, this will then show you as a plan holder on this list of, you got your primes on the top and then your subs on the bottom. So this is good for 2 reasons. You can get on this list, primes can see you on this list, and you can also see who the primes are, so you can know who to submit proposals to. All right, and lastly, just a few upcoming additions to the CNS website. If you're familiar with our future projects list, you know that it is only updated twice a year. And as you also are probably aware, project schedules change all the time, constantly. So something you see that was updated 2 months ago may not be the case today. So this list is going to provide more real-time information and should be posted within the next month. The next update we're going to do is a list of descriptions for types of work for pre-qualification. This can help. A lot of smaller companies aren't sure what they can be a prime on, not sure that they can be a prime. So this helps kind of define what work types the department will pre-qualify you as a prime for. So hopefully that helps with getting more primes, more applications as primes. It'll just hopefully help anyway, but you won't know till you'll see it. That should be up in the next month also. And that's all I had.
All right. Thank you so much, Kirsten. I appreciate that. If you'd like to stop sharing, and then if you want to step into the background, turn your microphone off and your camera off. Thank you again for that update from contracts and specs. I love anything that gives us faster updates. So going from twice a year updates to however close to real-time project updates will be outstanding.
I'm sorry, how do I stop sharing? I guess I didn't test this part.
Oh, we stopped it. You're stopped already.
Oh, you did. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. All right, and with that, I'd like to invite Adam Bienick, engineering consultant section. Adam, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Hey, good morning. I'm sorry for the raspy voice. I've been under the weather for a little bit, so I'll keep this pretty short. I'm Adam Bienick. I'm the group manager for the engineering consultant section here. As Kirsten said in her presentation, that we're going into our fourth quarter, so we're gearing up and getting pretty busy. I did want to point out one project that we have coming out pretty soon, our project development on-call contract, which is one of our biggest contracts. We'll be looking to advertise the new one sometime next week. That will be replacing the current one, our 2022-006 project development on-call contract. This contract, the new one, will mirror pretty much the older one. We're looking to select 25 firms to go onto this contract. And like I said, we're looking to advertise it next week. I'll drop a little link into the chat so everyone can go to our website so you can see our upcoming list, and then our actual advertisement link will also be there too. So once we officially advertise it, you'll be able to go to that site and put in your SOQ. I just want to say that it's basically the same. We made one little change to our secondary selection process for this new one. The secondary selection process used to take us about 50 to 55 days to select for individual task orders on this contract. With our new process going in, we're limiting that down to about 20 days. So we'll be able to select task order assignments much quicker on this new one. With that being said, that's all I had also. I'll drop that link in the chat so everyone can see it.
Thank you so much, Adam. I know that'll be a very popular procurement, and thank you for joining us when you're not quite feeling up to par. I think that's going around for sure these days. Adam, if you'd like to, you did it already. Step into the background. Thank you so much. And then if I could invite Lorena Nava, DBE Supportive Services. Could you give us an update, please, Lorena? Take it away.
Hi. Yes, thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm Lorena Nava, the DBE Supportive Services Program Manager, and thank you all for being here today for our first task force meeting of the year. We do have some exciting updates to share with you all. First, our DBE and Small Business Transportation Expo is officially on May 20th and will be held at the Mesa Convention Center from 7 to 1. It's an in-person and must-attend event, as it will be the only event held for small businesses this year. Our theme is paving the way for DBEs and small businesses to win in 2025, and our goal is to provide you with the project opportunities and educational resources needed to lay a foundation for growth and change, even if that means pivoting or finding a different path to success this year. There will also be plenty of opportunities to network and meet one-on-one with primes, DBEs, and small businesses, hear from transportation leaders, and attend educational sessions, which is new this year, as well as visiting exhibits. Sponsorship and tabling opportunities are also available. So if you're wanting some additional exposure for your business, reach out to us. And because this is the main and only event for small businesses this year, we encourage you to register today. Registration is actually open as of today, and there is an early bird special of $20 as long as you register before April 26th. So take advantage of that. We'll drop the link in the chat, and we hope to see you all there. And secondly, enrollment for our business development program closes this Friday. This is our 21-week cohort with classes that covers a mixture of specific industry and business-related topics like certified payroll and developing a business plan or financial forecast, all to help you continue to develop or learn skills and tools needed to grow your business. If you're interested in enrolling in that program, please submit your application today for an opportunity to be considered. And thirdly, our ADOT AGC joint cooperative meeting will be held next week on March 18th and is an opportunity for DBEs and SBCs to pitch their business in front of primes. If you're interested in doing that, please reach out to us and we'll try to get you a spot for that. And lastly, stay connected to our communications for upcoming announcements, events, and anything else related to the expo or any of our other events this year. We'll drop a link in the chat so that you can subscribe to those. And as always, you can reach out to myself or our DBE supportive specialist, Alexa, for any guidance or support in pursuing opportunities with ADOT. Thank you. And like I said, all of the information that I mentioned will be dropped in the chat. And I'll turn it back over to Rebecca. Thank you.
You're quick with the chat. I love those. So there are a bunch of kind of synopsises and links over there. Lorena, thank you so much. We will be, as Bex is your event planning consultant on the DBE Expo as well. So happy to answer any questions. But yeah, registration is live as of this morning. Everyone should have gotten an email already. Thank you for that again, Lorena. Thank you to all of our ADOT representatives for providing those updates and being accessible. I think that's one of the most impactful things that this group does, the DBE task force, is making things transparent and accessible. Like, hey, we know we can get an update. We can hear what's going on over at ADOT if you're here. So thank you to everyone who makes themselves available. And with that, let's get to our main topic of the day. So we kind of branded this as back to basics. It will be kind of a lot. Like I've seen some of the presentation materials. I've listened to some of the topics that we'll be discussing. Cassandra Johnson, if I could invite you to turn your camera on and your microphone on. We could not have thought of a better person to moderate and to kind of guide us through all of these different topics of actually executing the work and making it through all of our crossing of our T's and dotting of our I's. So Cassandra, I'd like to turn it over to you for the remainder of the time today. And you've assembled this amazing group of like the right people to talk about these fairly technical subjects that I don't even understand myself sometimes. So Cassandra, I will step into the background if I could have you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad that you're able to attend. We have great speakers and topics today, and something I hold dear to my heart and been doing for many years on both sides of being as a ADOT, as coming from the agency side, also as a contractor. As right now, what I would like to do is I would like to introduce Irene Del Castro with Field Reports to come in and let's talk about some payment reporting and what that looks like. Irene, if you could turn on your camera and pull up your presentation, that would be awesome.
All righty. Good morning, everyone. Am I sharing my screen? Share.
Here it comes. All right, we can see it now. I'm going to step in the background. Thanks, Irene.
All right. Thank you, Cassandra. Good morning, everyone. My name is Irene, and I am the Field Reports Manager at ADOT in the construction group. I oversee several teams that support construction project administration, including the subcontract approvals, labor compliance, the project finals, and then supplying the temporary technicians for construction projects. A key part of my role is providing guidance, oversight, and support to ensure that construction field office staff understand and comply what the required processes are, such as payment reporting. So I'm going to go over a quick overview of what ADOT does to check payment reporting. So a very critical requirement of for all prime contractors is that every time a contractor receives a monthly payment from ADOT, they have an obligation to report the payments made to their subcontractors. This isn't just an internal ADOT requirement, it is required by law. This reporting is done through the ADOT door system, and compliance with this process is outlined in standard specifications, subsection 109.06B5. My goal today is to walk you through the requirements and answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. One of the key requirements is to understand the ADOT standard specifications for road and bridge construction 2021, specification subsection 109.06. This section is titled Partial Payments and Retention. Payment reporting is found under subsection 109.06B5. This specification applies to both federal aid and non-federal aid projects. The other requirement is that the payment reporting shall be completed using ADOT's web-based system called DOORS, DBE, and OJT online reporting system. Once a project has been awarded and executed, ADOT's Business Engagement and Compliance Office, better known as BECO, adds the project into DOORS. The contractor is required to add all of their subcontractors per project and report payments in this system. Now let's talk about compliance. The contractor is responsible for entering all of its subcontractors into the system. This applies to all subcontractors, not only the DBE subcontractors. The contractor shall enter the subcontractor name, contractor information, the contact information, and subcontract amounts for each subcontractor working on the project. This should be done no later than 15 calendar days after the pre-construction conference. And then, as subcontractors are approved throughout the course of the contractor has about 5 calendar days to enter each one into the DOORS system. It is highly important to remember to add every subcontractor into the system, because if they are missing and the payment reporting is missed, the contractor is in violation of not reporting timely. The specification states that the contractor shall report on a monthly basis, indicating the amounts actually paid and the dates of each payment under any reportable contract on the project. This means that contractors must report each month on how much they have actually paid their subcontractors and the dates of those payments. The specification states that in the event that no payments were made during a given month, the contractor shall identify that by entering a dollar value of 0. So even if a subcontractor worked 1 month and then didn't work for the next 5 months and no payments were made to them, you would still need to report $0 payments in those in-between months. The specification also states that the contractor needs to ensure that all reportable contract activity is reported to the department. This includes all of the lower tier reportable contracts. So as the prime contractor, you are responsible for ensuring that your subcontractors are reporting the payments that they have made to their lower tier subcontractors. The contractor and the subcontractors who have lower tier subs shall provide information for payments made on all reportable contracts during the previous month by the 15th day of the current month. I would like to take you through the contractor pay cycle and then the reporting deadlines, and then finally the compliance audit review that ADOT administrators complete. And so each month as work progresses, a monthly estimate is prepared and signed by the contractor and the resident engineer. They certify that the work was satisfactorily completed, that it met the specifications, that the quantities are accurate, whether work was performed by the contractor or by its subcontractors. The time period covered in the monthly estimate is from the day after the cutoff date to the next cutoff date. The ADOT field office that is administering your project saves the contractor monthly pay estimate after the contractor and the resident engineer have signed the estimate. The estimate goes through the field reports for a spot check, and then field reports submits each saved estimate to the contracts payable section of the finance department. The finance department processes it, and the contractor receives their payment on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. The contractor may receive a check by mail, or they may receive a direct deposit. So let's take a look at the contractor pay cycle for January as an example of this process. So first, notice the estimate for December 2024 in that first column. And then the second column, it has a monthly cutoff date of 12/31/2024. This means that the new monthly period for January began on January 1st, 2025. And then notice for the January estimate, the monthly cutoff date is February 4th, 2025. So the January estimate will cover work performed between January 1st and February 4th, 2025. There could be some exceptions, such as paving that is done in those last days and paperwork is not turned in on time, or a stack of force account invoice that get turned in at the last minute, since those take quite some time to review and approve. But for the most part, all the work that is done during that time period will be paid. So you can see that the contractors should have received their January payment on February 19th. So that last column on the monthly contractor pay cycle is the contractor payment date. The contractor cycle key dates are located in the contractor information webpage, and a link is included in here as well. Once the contractor receives their payment from ADOT, they have 7 days to promptly pay each of their subcontractors that they received payment for, per the specification 109.06B3, which states the contractor and each subcontractor of any tier shall make prompt partial payments to its subcontractors within 7 days of receipt of payment from the department. But not only do they need to make payments to the subcontractors, they also need to report those payments per specification 109.06B5 by the 15th of the following month. The audit period will open in the DOOR system at the beginning of the following month. The contractor must indicate the amount actually paid along with the dates of each payment. If no payment were made to the subcontractors during a given month, the contractor shall identify that by entering a dollar value of 0. If the 15th falls on a weekend or a holiday, the reporting deadline will be the next business day. Please note that it is the contractor's responsibility to ensure that the payment reporting is completed. The audit usually opens between the first week, sometime between the 1st and the 3rd. But if it's not opened on time for you to report, notify BECO immediately. So going off our previous example, during the month of January, the contractor and its subcontractors performed work, and ADOT accepted it. ADOT prepared the monthly estimate based on quantities of work completed during the time frame between January 1st and February 4th. ADOT paid the contractor on February 19th for the work completed in January. In the first days of March, the audit period opens up in the DOOR system. This is the February audit period since the payment was received in February. The contractor can go into DOORs today to report their payments, or any time between now and March 15th to go into DOORs and report the dollar amounts paid to each subcontractor and the date paid. Just a side note that March 15th falls on a Saturday, so the contractor will have until March 17th to complete their payment reporting this month. Now let's take a look at ADOT's compliance audit review. The ADOT construction field office that is administering your project will complete a compliance audit review on every project in their unit. This is usually done the day after or generally the same week. They check that the dates are on or before the 15th, in this month's case, the 17th, and ensure that the payments were reported on all subcontractors, including $0 amounts. Our field office technicians keep track of subcontractor start dates. This tracking mechanism helps the ADOT staff know when to expect certified payrolls from subcontractors, and is an indicator that these subcontractors should be receiving a payment as well. Currently, our general practice is that ADOT staff only performs an audit review of the first-tier subcontractors under the contractor. Once the field office has completed a thorough review of all the subcontractors, they will add a comment. They also have the authority to assess the sanctions if applicable. So on the ADOT side, this is what our compliance audit review looks like. So within a few days after the payment reporting was due, the ADOT field office technician completes the compliance audit review for each project. In the DOOR system, they open up the current audit, they go to the list of subcontractors, they review all of the first tier subcontractors. And these are shown with a number 1. You'll see that right there. There's a little number 1 in a square box. And then they look in the this period column and click on the view. Once they click on the view, they scroll to the compliance audit response by the prime section. And then they check the response date in there and make sure that it's by the due date, whether it's the 15th or the 17th or whatever date it was due by. It just needs to make sure that it was prior to that date. This one is an example of when the contractor has marked a contractor as not included in the audit. In this case, a final payment was made. So there's no more payment reporting necessary. Or it'll highlight in a bright red that payment has not been reported. The field office technician will enter an applicable comment in DOOR, such as all payments reported on time, if the subcontractors were all reported and all were on time. If the contractor does not complete the monthly payment reporting by the 15th or misses one or more subcontractors on the reporting, the contractor is not in compliance. The field office will add a comment stating that all payments were reported on time except for, and they'll name the subcontractors. If reporting is incomplete or late, the contractor is in non-compliance and sanctions will apply. It is $5,000 per month for the first 90 days and $10,000 per month after 90 days. The resident engineer for that particular project will notify the contractor by email with the letter of non-compliance, and the field office will assess a sanction in the monthly pay estimate. Note that sanctions are not discretionary, but they can be appealed for review. The contractor will see the sanction under pay item 1080905 in their monthly pay estimate. If the contractor believes they have a good reason for missing a payment reporting to a subcontractor and doesn't believe a sanction should apply, they can escalate the issue. The issue should be escalated to the resident engineer, and he or she will escalate it to Bill Fay, our state construction engineer. Bill will reach out to me and my team to get a history check on the contractor. We will check our construction administration records using the pay item number and contractor's name and see if the contractor has been given a waiver in the past. We give Bill the information and then he makes a decision based on the history and the situation given by the contractor. So only the state construction engineer has the authority to waive any sanctions. As the project comes to an end, Contractors should ensure that all subcontractors have been paid and mark them as final payment made. Specification 109.09 is acceptance and final payment. Once the contractor has been given final acceptance, the ADOT Construction Field Office works on the project closeout, reviewing and verifying measurements and quantities that were paid. This final documentation is then submitted to field reports for a final audit review, and sometimes the project final specialist will catch payment reporting that was missed, or possibly a subcontractor that was approved but never added. At this time, field reports and the construction field office will try to figure out what happened, but if the contractor has forgotten to add a subcontractor, a sanction will be assessed at this time. So remember to always add your subcontractors. Some helpful tips. If there is no contractor pay estimate, then there's no payment reporting that's required. Pay estimate number 1 may be for mobilization only. So contractors can be marked as non-working subcontractors and not included in the audit. If a subcontractor has not started working and the contractor did not report a $0 payment, we are not going to apply any sanctions. Lower tier subcontractors, our current process right now is no sanctions apply for late or missing reporting. And then contractors can escalate issues for a one-time waiver, and this is subject to history review. Some resources for you. We have the contractor information website, and then the contractors have the prompt payment reporting guide, which can be found on the DBE Contract Compliance Guides and Policies website. And that is all I have. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, I am here for you.
Thank you, Irene. That was a lot of information and it was good. It's good to hear that and having the step-by-steps of what ADOT and the agency is looking for in regards to payment reporting.
All right. Thanks, Cass.
Thanks. If you would like to turn your camera off and step in the background. And our next up is Estella Robinson with field reports and going to talk to us about LCPTracker and some payroll reporting.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about some basics of certified payroll reporting. When it comes to Davis-Bacon Act requirements, some of the basic things that are required are that the certified payroll reporting applies to laborers and mechanics of contractors and subcontractors. And it only applies to them while they perform work on the site of work. They must be paid not less than the prevailing wage and not less often than weekly. Now let's talk a little bit more in depth about laborers and mechanics. What are laborers and mechanics? Well, they are the workers whose duties are manual or physical in nature, including those workers who use the tools or who use tools or are performing the work of a trade. It can also include apprentices, trainees, and helpers. And if your project also is covered by the Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, which is any project in excess of, I believe, $100,000. So, of course, our ADOT projects are covered by this act. Then those laborers and mechanics would also include guards and watchmen. Now, laborers and mechanics does not include work classifications such as timekeepers, engineers, architects, inspectors, the kind of what the Fair Labor Standards Act would consider professional employees under their definition. So some key requirements for certified payroll reporting are weekly pay, weekly payrolls. When you are performing work on a project covered by Davis-Bacon, you have to pay weekly. You also have to pay the prevailing wages, or at least meet the minimum prevailing wages. Also, you have to pay overtime for all hours worked in excess of 40 hours in a week. So your workers, they could work more than 8 hours in a day and they would not be owed overtime until they work more than 40 hours in a week. You also want to make sure that you are correctly classifying the workers and following reporting deadlines. I wanted to include here just some separate clauses that apply to certified payroll. So you will know where you could look this up as far as the regulation is concerned. And they are the clauses regarding submitting a weekly payroll and also paying on a weekly basis. So those clauses are right here for your records. Let's talk a little bit about what makes up a certified payroll. Of course, on your certified payroll report, you need to ensure you have the name of each worker. There must be some type of employee ID number, the correct work classifications, hourly rates of wages paid, daily, weekly number of hours worked, any deductions made and the actual wages that were paid, and then the gross wages earned for that employee for the week. And then finally, a statement of compliance. The statement of compliance, that just is you saying as the employer that you are adhering to the prevailing wage requirements. I wanted to talk a little bit more about classifications, these work classifications. Just as a good best practice, you should always review the wage classifications and rates before starting work on the job. So when you have the wage determination that is assigned to the project, make sure you review all the wage classification and the rates before you start your work. Clarify any conflicting or unclear classification issues before you start the work, and request any additional classifications that you may need. If you don't see a classification that you need on the assigned wage determinations, then request a conformance so that we can get that classification added to the project for you. And always remember that the work classifications that are reported on the certified payroll must be the classification of work that was actually performed. So, you may consider your worker one classification, but if they perform work that is covered by another classification, when you report them on the payroll, you have to report them under the classification of the work that they actually performed. One of the most probably overused work classifications is general labor. So I just wanted to remind everyone that general labor is unskilled labor that doesn't include the use of tools of a trade, and they don't operate equipment or trucks. So one of the things we look for when we are auditing certified payroll reports is the overuse of the general labor classification. That would be a red flag for an auditor. We would look at, the scope of work for that contractor or subcontractor and just ensure that the classification is being reported correctly. And we would also rely on the inspectors that are out there on the job site and their observations. Another classification is the owner operator. So so that you understand, a bona fide owner operator applies only to trucks. So they must own and drive their own truck to be considered an owner operator. The term owner operator applies to truck drivers only who are driving and owning that truck. Owners of business. So this comes up a lot. We often see an owner of a business that is going to be a subcontractor on a project. And if the owner is working on the project and performing the work of a trade, and they're not involved in managerial duties such as supervising, two or more employees, then he or she is a laborer or mechanic as far as the Department of Labor's position goes, and they have to be treated as such, meaning, if the owner operator is actually doing the work, then they have to report a certified payroll. When it comes to your foreman, if you have a working foreman, there are some specific rules around that. Working foremen who devote more than 20% of their time during the work week to mechanic or labor duties are reported on the certified payrolls as laborers and mechanics for the time they spent working on the project doing those types of duties. Now, if your foreman is not performing labor mechanic duties for 20% of their time on the project that week, then they don't have to be reported on the certified payroll at all. They wouldn't be considered a working foreman at that point. So going back to the certified payrolls, deductions. When it comes to deductions, the way the Department of Labor looks at it is that there's two types of deductions. There are legal deductions, which are payroll deductions such as taxes and Social Security. So those are required by law. And then there are voluntary deductions. These are deductions that aren't really required by law, and it's something that the employee has to consent to in writing prior to that deduction appearing on their certified payroll. And at ADOT, we require that document where the employee is authorizing that voluntary deduction to be uploaded to our payroll reporting system, LCPTracker, and we then would verify, that everything was deducted correctly and that the employee had authorized it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about fringe benefits. As you may know, when you look at a wage determination, you have your classification, and then you have your base rate and your fringe rate. If you are an employer that contributes to bona fide fringe plans and programs on your employees' behalf, so you're making contributions to those programs on the employee's behalf, then you can possibly get credit towards meeting the prevailing wage obligation by submitting your fringe benefit plans or program information to ADOT for review, and we would be able to calculate what an hourly credit is that you could get towards meeting the prevailing wage. The other way to meet the fringe benefit portion of the prevailing wage is to just pay it to the employee in their check, in their pay. So that would be considered cash fringe. The one thing that is important for us to evaluate when we are looking at fringe benefit plans is that the plan must be a benefit to the employee. The benefit must be definite and certain. The benefit must be non-forfeitable, and it must be irrevocable, and it must be paid on a regular basis, but not less than quarterly. So that's some of the criteria we are using when we are reviewing fringe benefit plans that are presented to us for possible fringe credits towards meeting the prevailing wage. When it comes to submitting payrolls, you want to make sure that your payrolls are submitted sequentially. So the first week you are actually performing on the project, that would be payroll number 1. That's week 1. So you don't submit a payroll until you actually start working. Your first payroll submitted will always be a performing or a working payroll. On those weeks that you don't work, you would submit a non-performing payroll. So if you're not working yet, you don't submit anything, but once you start submitting payrolls, once you start working, that's payroll number 1. And from then until the end of your work on the project, you will always submit a payroll. So you're going to start off with a working payroll. You may have some non-working payrolls in there, mixed in there throughout your time on the project, and then you will submit a final payroll when you are completed. As far as deadlines go, certified payrolls are due by the 15th of the month for all work performed during the preceding month. We would love for you to submit your payrolls on a weekly basis since you're paying on a weekly basis. We do understand sometimes things happen. As long as you get those payrolls submitted by the 15th of the month for all the work performed in the preceding month, then you will be in compliance with ADOT. And just a little bit about the overtime requirements. So again, overtime requirements come to us from an act called the Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act. Anytime you have a project that has $100,000 or more is the project amount, which is again all ADOT projects, then this act will be in effect. And you will have to pay time and a half on the basic rate of pay for all hours worked over 40 hours in a week. I want to go over a few best practices for maintaining compliance. Record keeping requirements. When it comes to your payroll records, you definitely want to make sure you keep your timesheets and your wage rate records for at least 3 years after the work on the prime contract is completed. So you need to keep all your payroll records for at least 3 years after the completion of the prime contract. As far as the prevailing wage, you want to ensure that your employees are paid according to the assigned wage determination. The wage determinations will have the minimum rates that you are allowed to pay your workers. So of course you can pay more, but you have to pay at least what is this listed there for that classification. Assign the correct job classifications to avoid underpayment issues. Review your job duties regularly to ensure alignment with the classifications. So just, make sure that you're always keeping tabs on what the duties are for the jobs so that they do match the classification that you are reporting on the payroll. So some common things that we look for that will actually end up getting a payroll rejected are if the voluntary deductions exceed the amount approved by the employee. So remember previously when I mentioned you uploading a document showing that your employees have authorized or approved you to take those voluntary deductions, that document is going to show us how much the deduction is going to be and how often it's going to come out and what it's for. So it's going to have a description of the deduction. So when we compare that to what's reported on the payroll, if we see that the amount that the employee has approved is exceeded on the payroll, then that would cause us to reject the payroll. Another thing is reported fringe contributions that are not approved yet by the ADOT labor compliance section. So those fringe benefit plans, I talked a little bit about how we approve them, what we're looking for. If we see a fringe contribution or a fringe credit reported on the certified payroll and we have not yet approved or evaluated that fringe plan, then we will have to reject the payroll. Misclassification of workers. So, we are using our the employee interviews, the inspector's observations to ensure that the classification of workers is correct, and we will compare that to what is reported on the payroll. So your worker is misclassified, then we would have to reject. Incorrect work dates entered, incorrect payroll week ending dates, the final payroll not marked as final, we would have to contact you and we'd reject the payroll and ask you to mark that as final. And then, of course, if we have an employee that's missing from the payroll, so if we do have an employee interview for a worker and we check the payroll for that day and that worker is not reported on the payroll, then we will reject the payroll. When it comes to reporting the payrolls, the payroll system that ADOT uses is LCPTracker. It's a cloud-based software for the electronic submission of certified payrolls. All ADOT subcontractors are set up in LCPTracker and given access during the subcontractor approval process. So as soon as you submit your paperwork for approval of your subcontract, we're in the background setting you up in the LCPTracker system so that you will be already ready and set to go to submit your certified payrolls. The LCPTracker system, it does include its own compliance monitoring tools. So there are certain things built into the system that will, alert you if you did try to enter or submit a payroll that was underpaying, was not meeting the prevailing wage requirement. The system would not allow you to certify the payroll because the system knows what the minimum requirements of pay are. When it comes to LCPTracker access, your access, again, is provided by ADOT during the subcontract approval process. But if for some reason you don't have access, then you would just contact Field Reports. I have put the phone number there for our front desk, and we can assist you with your username, password resets. I do believe now that LCPTracker, once you're already in LCPTracker, if you need to do a password reset, you can actually initiate that on your own through the system. But if for some reason you have any kind of issue, you can just contact ADOT Field Reports and we will assist you with that. When it comes to the inner workings of entering payrolls into LCPTracker, your best option is to take an LCPTracker training class. So anyone with LCPTracker access can watch on-demand training videos, and they're located on the site's training section. So you would just, log in like you normally do, and you would go to the training tab, and you can watch on demand all types of videos where they are walking you through step by step on how to use the system. If you have any LCPTracker issues, we request that you contact me, and I have my email address there. And that way we can, Field Reports, we can be aware of all the issues that are being experienced. And we have one point of contact that's communicating back and forth with LCPTracker support staff. So that really helps us know if it's just, maybe that one user is having an issue, or if it's a system-wide issue. And we will usually have to loop in LCPTracker and they will get the issue resolved. I do have here some different resources for you as far as certified payroll reporting, the regulations. One of the really good resources that I like is the DOL, the Department of Labor's Field Operations Handbook. Their Chapter 15 covers Davis-Bacon and related acts, and you can just easily look that up online and download a copy. There are also, I do have a class, a certified payroll reporting workshop that I conduct monthly. The next one is coming up in a week or so. So you can go online to azdot.gov and you can register for that class if you want to really dig in deep to certified payroll reporting. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Nope, that is it. So that is the end of my presentation. And I thank you all. If you have any questions, please just contact me and I'll be willing to help you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Estella. That was such good information.
Thank you.
Very helpful. If you would like to stop sharing your screen. We are getting close to the end of our session and we still have one more presentation. Let's have, if Vico could turn on their screens, please, and let's talk about some prompt pay. First off, who's going to be presenting for Vico today is we're going to have Alma, Nora, and Sharon.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending. My name is Alma Lozano. Presenting along with me is Nora Herrera and Sharon Bova, and we are DBE and OJT compliance technicians for BICO. In today's presentation, we will be providing a quick overview of the prompt payment process in regards to compliance. Please reserve your questions until the end when we reach our Q&A section. You may also send your questions through the chat, and my colleagues and I will address them at the end. Our BICO compliance technician will be your first point of contact for any and all questions related to DBE or OJT program requirements on ADOT administered construction contracts. Each of them are responsible for conducting oversight and monitoring on their assigned contracts to ensure compliance with our DBE and OJT program requirements. Annie and Barissa are more focalized with ensuring compliance on professional service contracts, including performing professional service CUF reviews. To identify the points of contacts indoors, you will first need to pull up the project number, and under the main tab, you will see the compliance officer, whom you will contact for questions regarding prompt payment questions, and the secondary compliance officer you will contact for questions regarding monthly estimates.
Thank you, Alma. Again, my name is Nora Herrera, and I will be covering how to create a payment discrepancy. A prime contractor will report their monthly payments indoors. This will generate an email that is sent out to the subcontractor. The subcontractor will then review the payment information. If they do not agree with the payment amount, they may respond by selecting the incorrect option. Then they will select either we were paid a different amount than reported or we received no payment. Selecting either of these options creates a discrepancy indoors. The prime contractor will then receive a notice that the subcontractor does not agree with the reported payment. The prime contractor will then be able to respond after further review and resolve the discrepancy. Adding payment details to each audit include adding check numbers, reasons for delay in payment, date check was postmarked and was cashed. What is not considered a prompt payment violation? Work that was not accepted by ADOT, contract disputes, sanctions for noncompliance, unsigned and unsubmitted lien waivers.
Sharon, are you talking by chance? Maybe I'm mute.
Sorry, looks like we might be having technical problems. We will now be moving on to the prompt payment review process. The BICO CTs are responsible for running a monthly report to track any late payments, unconfirmed payments, and discrepancies, sends out requests for information as needed, confirm unconfirmed payments on behalf of the subcontractor, provide follow-up assistance to resolve discrepancies. The BICO CTs conduct random audit reviews to confirm compliance with prompt payment. If the BICO CTs receive a complaint from a subcontractor of a late payment or no payment, a RFI is sent to the contractor, subcontractor, and ADOT field office. The BICO CTs will assist with updating payments as needed. Last but not least, BICO may recommend prompt payment sanctions for contractors that are willfully non-compliant. However, the final decision will be made by the state construction engineer.
Prompt payment.
So much. I'm so sorry about that. I was unable to unmute, but I'm there now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So prompt payment applies to all LPA contracts. Your first point of contact for the LPA is going to be the subrecipient. LPA subrecipients will review the monthly audits for any late payments. They will also follow up on any discrepancies, and they will be able to contact BICO for any support. For that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention. Here are some QR codes and links to our contractor compliance, BICO Connects, and our payment reporting guide. Well, now we'll go ahead and open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, everyone, for your presentation. That was very helpful in understanding the roles and responsibilities. We are going to now bring on Adrian Walters with Combs Construction. We're going to bring in on the Prime's perspective. We are running, we have hit our time at 10:30, but we are going to continue on and go through. So anyone that would like to stay on, we are going to be, this is being recorded. So if you're not able to stay, we will be sending out this recording. But now we're going to go on into the Prime's perspective of all the information that was just given to us from Irene, Estella, Sharon, and Alma, and Nora. And kind of taking a view of how that's going to look and how to help to make sure that we as a contractor stay in compliance. And let me go to sharing the screen. Oops, hold on 1 second. Okay, so if I go here. All right, can we see the presentation now?
Yes.
Awesome. Adrian, I thank you so much for joining us today, and let's have some fun.
All right. Thank you for helping. So Cass and I worked together on this one. Oh, that's perfect.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so we wanted to just kind of start at the beginning. Obviously, the first portion is getting your executed subcontract. You want to get that approved SRF next, get that entered into doors right away. That includes any of your lower tiers. Then that goes right into LCPTracker from there. That's handled by ADOT. That's the basics. That gets the ball rolling into everything that we talked about today.
Yeah, and there is a couple different things, like when we've been talking a lot about the standard ADOT projects, but then ADOT also has their major projects. So depending on what project you're on, what type of delivery that is, sometimes some of these items can change a little bit. So just knowing that and being able to adjust accordingly is very helpful.
Reading.
Knowing the contract.
Yes, definitely. reaching out to your prime. So the first of the month, you will receive an email, and it's going to tell you got to report. So you get into doors, and right away you can see it's there. It tells you what you've got to report, who you got to report for. It's a super easy dashboard to navigate.
Yeah,
So,
and when you're looking at this, it's going to be down here. You'll have your incomplete audits and showing the different projects into where you can, there's multiple ways you can do. You can click on to the incomplete audits here where it's showing in red, or you can actually go in and click onto the contracts and it will pull up everything and you can see everything on one screen too.
correct. So as a prime, a lot of us like to help, and they'll do a lot of hand holding because we are responsible for our subcontractors lower tiers. So with everything being due by the 15th, we do a lot of outreach, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls for the reporting. It is super crucial. Everything is in on time and accurate. So we may seem like a pain at times, but we definitely want to help you, and that helps us.
Absolutely. And, you know, sometimes we even get into stalker mode, especially when it gets to the 15th. Hearing Irene talk about the deadlines and being the next business day of the 15th, I've kind of more strict where in my head it's the 15th. It doesn't matter if it's on a Saturday or on a holiday. The 15th is the 15th, and all of my payments are going to be reported then. And I think it's also the discretion of the prime. You know, there's things that I do on other projects as the prime where I work with my subs and I gather their information and I enter the information into the system, because then I know exactly what it's looking like. And that being on what I was talking about, the other alternative delivery projects, on the major projects, there's other things that are required in reporting to where it helps me. It helps me be able to take that information and put into a monthly report, submit it to ADOT, and have that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
On other primes, they're going to work with you and show you how to do it and be able to. Adrienne works closely with her subs and then helps them be able to input the information. Right. So again, understanding the contract and what your primes kind of expectation is, knowing the expectations of the prime is really good, and getting that working relationship. What do you think about that?
Lots of communicating. Lots. I have lots of subs that want to learn how to do it, which is fantastic. So we do a lot of hand holding over the phone, a lot of communicating back and forth, and I'll walk them through it. I even FaceTime with people. And so I can see what they're doing, and then I see it come through on my end. I can see things happening, and it's great. And we'll do it for a couple months. And so then I know they're solid. So, and I'm all for that.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great to have that resource and being open and being that tool for them, because, you know, they are smaller companies and they don't always have the extra time if they're out working in the field to be able to come in and do the paperwork too. So giving them a hand is awesome.
Yes, definitely.
So now we're going to be talking, the last slide was showing about what it looks like at the beginning to enter into the system. Now we've gone through the 15th and everything's been entered in the system. And now what are we looking at, Adrienne?
We are going to confirm by the last day of the month. I like a lot of buys. So, one thing though, when confirming, I've been noticing is people just kind of rush it. Oh, she sent me that 12th email. I just need to get it done so she stops calling and gets off my back. Well, we rush it and then we hit the wrong thing. And it looks like we did not get paid properly. We didn't get paid on time. And then that makes issues. So
that's what's triggering then our conversation that we just heard, our presentation from BICO, and then having discrepancies and having it to where having to explain why something was saying not prompt, but actually it was prompt then.
Yes, I just recently pulled lien waivers, check dates, postmarks. I mean, everything you can think of to say, oh no, that was incorrect. And it was, oh, oops, I clicked the wrong button. And that was it. So just read carefully. And if you're not sure of what you're doing, let's do the FaceTime. Let's talk about it. And I'll walk you through checking that if it's, your first few times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed and I've been having with some of the discrepancies on some of my projects is if a payment isn't made, it doesn't matter. Like if the prime doesn't receive a payment 1 month, there's not going to be a date that it shows that they got paid. It's just going to say, were you paid within 7 days? So understanding, I think it's really good for the contractor the sub to understand that if it doesn't look the same every month, call and ask a question, because there is 1 month that, especially depending on the tier path, in like on the major projects, each prime it's just not a solid prime. There's a joint venture, and then they're the partners in that are actually subs. So it's hard, it doesn't, it's not apples to apples. Sometimes you have to kind of really understand what that looks like. So just call and ask.
Right.
When I'm looking down here and it's saying, were you paid by January 22nd? That's basing off that the prime received payment on the 15th. But if there's not a date there, there's not going to be a date for you to do. So don't go assume that every project is going to fall into that category, into
Right.
that bucket.
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Is there anything else on here that I know, like when we're looking at this, if your work still continues or if there's been a final payment. I just recently realized that when I'm reporting a payment, that if I click final and save it, even though it hasn't been confirmed, and I go back in and try to edit because I clicked the button wrong because I was rushing, it doesn't remove it. You have to wait for the sub to go and reject the final payment. So taking the time.
Or you have to reach out and ask them to remove it.
Yes.
Yeah. You have to say, I'm sorry, ADOT, I messed up. I didn't read.
So, I mean, it happens to us all, but I think that the idea of being able to use your resources, know the contract is so big about this.
Yeah. And your prime is your source.
Yes.
Yep.
Because the prime's having to do it. The prime has to do it for themselves. And if it starts with the prime, it's going to roll down to every single tier.
Yep.
Oh, we talked about this too, because sometimes having the subs call and like we don't know where the contract or where the incomplete audit is because our dashboard is doing something weird or something else isn't coming through. Me and you were talking about how we can filter through the doors.
And you can filter so easily. So easily. All these have drop downs from each all, open, all, drop down. I mean, where open is, you can pull out all your closed. It makes it so much better. It's so easy.
And you can also organize by who the agency is. So
yes.
It's City of Phoenix or ADOT.
Yep.
And then I think we even played around with it. If you click on Prime, it will group all the primes together. You won't be able to filter by the primes, but I think when we were playing around with it the other day, it was able to group everyone together. They put it in alphabet order.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier to grab everything quickly and just do what you need to and get out. So play with it. You can't hurt anything. You're just looking at them. So
absolutely. And running the reports out of doors. What
is
that
look like? Yeah, we were having some good fun with that. So we didn't hurt anything doing that either.
No, we even went and found a new report that we were like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So everyone should try that.
And I think if anyone has any questions or anything, reach out to us. We'd be happy to show you the different reports and stuff.
Yeah.
and be able to maneuver and go through the doors, the doors application software itself.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to go into LCPTracker and talking about and follow up and kind of give us the contractor's perspective for Stella's presentation.
Another due the 15th. Just remember the 15th.
And this flows down to everyone. It doesn't matter if it's the first tier sub, second tier, third tier, depending on, once again, I've been on the major projects a lot lately, or probably since 2016. So I see a lot of getting down to where we have 5 tiers and subs.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
that is deep. That is deep.
So, and then subcontractors, being also understanding and realizing that there are the tools and resources for their lower tiers, and that they're able to provide information and support.
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
Withholdings. This is the worst. And the unfortunate part is, if I'm getting a withholding for your error, you're paying for it. And if it's for your lower tier, then you're going to have to take it from them. So the responsibility goes downhill and it keeps going. So we all have some ownership in it, and we don't want it. We don't want it. So that's part of the checking. I look at certified payroll every day for Combs and all of Combs subcontractors and all the subcontractors lower tiers. And if I see something that's out of place, or I'm notified of something from ADOT, I notify that subcontractor for themselves, and then their lower tiers, I notify both of them, and we try and fix it.
Oh, great.
Because I don't want to get to this.
So, and this becomes another 12 emails if it's getting close to the deadline also, huh?
Yes. I email weekly. I remind people I don't see anything in there. Where are we at? Where are we at? We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Let's just not get to this point. Please.
It's good to be proactive. One of the things that I have as a process is within the first week of the month, I'll start going through and listening, especially on these mega projects where we have hundreds. And, one project we had over 500 construction contractors. So trying to wrangle that and keep up on it. It's good to have a process, setting up a process where, I go in, I look at the beginning of the month and start seeing where we're at and sending out emails and telling them, this is the last payroll I see. Is there anything that you need assistance with, or please just bring them current? Yeah. What are the different things that you do see in, like when you're...
I see a lot of, oh, why don't you have any for 3 weeks? Were you not performing? That's, my first thought is, okay, so they forgot because it didn't work. So they think I don't need to do anything. So I'm just going to sit here idle. No, you still need to put in non-performing. And your sub hasn't done anything. Yeah, your sub, same thing. Got to stay on top of that. So I just weekly, if I don't see anything, hey, here's a nudge. Last date, here you did it. Let's go. Let's go. And I've been told I'm a nag. It's okay. I saved you money. I didn't have to keep any money from you, so it's fine. And some people say, no, it's great. I forgot. Thank you. I look forward to your email because I forget. And I'm like, good. We're doing good here.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's with no withholdings. We're not wanting any withholdings, and we're trying to look out for the interest of everyone. It helps. It helps us. It helps the subs. It helps the agency. Because if we do have withholdings, then it gets taken care of. Then it gets withheld, and then it gets released. And so instead, if we can just do it all up front and not have any withholdings, then we're not touching it twice. I don't like to touch things twice. Tends to, there's so much other things that start happening up and coming up.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, this guy we talk about a lot.
This is the most common thing that people have rejections for that I see. EADs. It is available to you in LCPTracker. You can't have an electronic signature, unfortunately. That's still not available. You need to have your employees sign it. You've got to have it. It's just a requirement. It's got to be there. If you're having deductions from your employee's paycheck, just like we talked about earlier, we heard from everyone, you've got to do it. It's got to be in there. I see so many rejections for it, and I get so many calls. Well, what? They have insurance. They pay their child support. They bought some t-shirts, but you took money from their pay. You've got to explain why. You need support to that. It's just got to be there.
Absolutely. I think one of the triggers, one of the main red flags and triggers is the moment you put a dollar amount in that other deduction box, and when you're entering LCPTracker, you should already be thinking, do I have the EAD? If I do, is it current? And make sure, because it is, as Stella was stating, they have to be accurate. If we have an EAD in there and you have a deduction, a health insurance deduction, say for $50, but then 1 week it was 40, as long as it's $50 or less, then ADOT's the agency's looking at it, and they're it's going to work. But if it goes over and it's $60, they're even 10 cents over, it's going to trigger and you're going to have to update the EAD form.
Right. Absolutely.
We created a process to where when we're submitting certified payrolls, we create EAD forms that are just filled out. We have our signed ones, but then we have our templates. And then that way, when we're looking at the certified payrolls, if something triggers, we can look and see and be like, okay, we're good here. Or, oh no, this is going to something changed, because you don't always have control of, some of the things that your employees can do, like for a 401k and stuff, they can go and make adjustments and the employer doesn't know, because it's all controlled by the employee. So it's just something to keep in the back of your head when you're doing payrolls that could be triggering any kind of rejection or something that you need to get updated.
Right. Absolutely.
And really quick, going back to the non-performance on the payrolls, it's so easy. The LCPTracker makes it so easy for you to go in and be able to submit multiple weeks within a push a button. Like
yes.
you can certify multiple weeks in once. So that's a nice feature.
It is very nice.
Oh, our favorite.
Yes. The conformance request. Check your wage decision. If it does not fit your scope of work, your crafts, conformance requests. Everybody can have a conformance request. It's available. Call your prime. Ask for help. And we can help you do a conformance request. We need to check what we've already done, because if we talked about this, if you're a painter, someone else may already have striper, things like that, traffic control. We may already have one on file, but we can submit one. We can look into this if it's not there, but let us help you. There's a lot of information that's needed that is available that we already have on file. Just don't not do it.
And also check with the prime first, because this is on a first come, first served basis. So when a conformance request if work classification is needed to be added, if there's multiple subs that would use the same conformance request, who gets there first sets it, because it's not contractor specific. A sub or a prime can submit it, but once it's been submitted and approved, it's now then project. It covers the whole project. And then everyone that would have to or would need that work classification is then going to be stuck to that same amount. So be conscious of what you're reporting or what you're asking for, what the classification looks like, what the duties are, what the rates are. I had an example on a project where we had a company come in and just did some work, and they needed a plumber. So they submitted a conformance request. Well, that company was union, so they just submitted whatever they were paying their guys, and it turned out to be a really high rate. And then a year later, we had to have another plumber come out and did a lot of the majority of the work, and they were non-union. But because of the conformance request becoming project specific, that non-union had to pay the higher rate, and that wasn't in their original bid.
Yeah.
So having that information and knowing that is something is good. That's why reaching out to the prime and talking with them first helps also.
Always. Yep.
All right. Well, was there anything that we were talking about that came back? I know one of the things that I was when Irene was talking about the prime being paid on the third Wednesday of the month. No, that they should receive payment then on the third Wednesday. That's when ADOT releases the payment, either via ACH payment or check. So one of the things is a prime that I see, like as a direct deposit, as a ACH payment, it gets released on Wednesdays, but sometimes it doesn't hit the account until a day later. And a check, if you're still doing snail mail, sometimes it used to take a week for us to get our check in the mail. So there's things that do pop up, and we do follow, and we have the regulations that we have to follow. But there are certain circumstances that it is. So having that communication and everyone communicate, understand the contract and all that is huge.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Well, if there's any questions or anything, we would be happy to answer those.
This is Rebecca. You do have a question over in the chat. Can you see that one from Rochelle? It says, can a sub find a conformed classification and rate in LCPTracker before checking with the prime?
In LCPTracker, the conformance requests are being set up to where it's the prime. I know back in the old days, there used to be the sub could see it. All subs could see the conformance requests unless something has changed as of now, and no, they're not able to see it. If a sub submits a conformance request, they can see it in there because they're attached to it, but otherwise it's just the prime. And if Estella's still online, she might have a better understanding of that. If not, I can but as of right now, the sub.
Hi,
are you there? Okay.
I am, but state the question again.
So Estella, she's asking if a sub could log into LCPTracker and see what conformance requests have been submitted on a project.
You know what? I believe that they can, but I need to check on that to see how we have it set up, to see if that's visible to the subcontractors. I think it is, though. I don't think we have a way of making it visible to primes and not to subs. So
yeah, let's look.
I'll double check.
Okay, cool. Because I know in the past we were able to see them all, but then something changed, and I don't know if something changed in LCPTracker to where if it's just attached, for instance, if it's a landscape subcontractor and submits for erosion control, only that sub recently and the prime can see it. So let's look into that, and we can get back to you.
Okay, and just so that I'm clear, you are referring to the actual, I know we upload the DOL's response, their letter, email. That's what you're referring to?
The conformance request and DOL letter.
All that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we can check on that.
Yes.
And would that be
right now?
Estella, would that pertain to if that sub wasn't the one that requested it, if it was for an additional sub that was also doing that scope of work? They wanted to see if there's one already approved.
Yeah, because, well, when we upload things like that, we upload them to the projects, so they would be project specific and it wouldn't be contractor specific. So I'm going to look now and see if I can answer your question.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then Rochelle, just the classification and wage rate, like when you would craft match.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, so if you're just looking to see if the classification and the classification is in there, you would be able to log in and you would have to go in. As a contractor, we don't have access to the wage decision, and that's in LCPTracker. That's set up in the back end for the agency. You would have to go in, log in, and be able to look pull up your different work classifications and look and see if you can see it in there, but it won't have the wages. The only time that you would see the wage as a contractor is going in, picking it, and then putting in the hours that you have or the rates that you're looking for. And it would, in your notices would tell you. But at the end, when it comes down to it, and there's a lot of primes, once the especially if it's a long project, when the conformance requests are coming in, they will include it as part of their when they're sending out their information, and they'll email it out to their subs in case they need it. We've always made it part of our contract when we attach. If we get a new one, we just attach it, and then anyone that's already has been contracted with us, we send it out to them if they need it. All right. Well, we will be sending out the slides and information here. We've also added some guidelines to success, the kind of remembering the dates, the deadlines, LCPTracker. Adrian and my information's here if you have any questions. And once again, as Adrian's awesome about saying, is if you're not sure, just ask your prime.
You can ask us, we'll help.
I was going to chime onto that and say, read your contract, because it's probably in there as well. It sounded like that was the recurring theme of
yes.
Read what's in the contract, read what's required, and then if you get confused, ask. There's definitely people that are like yourselves who are very knowledgeable and really want it to go well, so that everybody gets paid on time and
yeah,
smooth sailing. So thank you so much, Adrian, for your time and for your expertise. Cassandra, thank you so much for moderating that large panel of experts, bringing forward kind of all the information that they had. I know we're well over our stated, end time of 10:30, but since we are still recording, in case we're sending this out and you're watching it later, Gabe, did you want to step forward, turn on your camera? Cassandra, if you'd like to step into the background, you are welcome. Gabe, good to see you. Gabe Demarby.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Can you
please
hear me and see my screen?
We can hear you perfectly and see your screen, yes.
Perfect. I'll try and make this quick for everyone in attendance. So thank you for joining us and staying on late. I'm going to just briefly go over some DB Go updates from the BECO DB compliance team. So on this slide, you will see ADOT's federal fiscal FHWA DB goal for federal fiscal years 2024 through 2026. The overall goal is 12.55%, and that goal is achieved via race-conscious means as well as race-neutral means. The race-conscious portion of that goal is 7.65%. That is achieved by assessing all FHWA-funded contracts for DB opportunities and assessing a minimum DB goal greater than 0% that the prime bidding on the contractor must commit to meet as a condition of contract award. The race-neutral goal of 4.9% is met when a prime brings on additional DB participation above the assessed DB goal, or when the prime brings on race-neutral DBEs on a race-neutral assessed DB project, meaning a project with a DB goal of 0%. Race-neutral DB participation is also achieved when a DB is awarded a prime contract. ADOT reports DB achievements on a semi-annual basis. So you'll see the first half semi-annual report covers the months of October to March. Then the second half semi-annual report covers the months of April through September. So on this slide here, you'll see a little quick table that is available on our goals and reports website. So if you click that link on there, you can see this. It will be updated within the next week with December data. But as of right now, we do have a total of 5.7% DB participation for the first 2 months of the first half semi-annual period. That 5.7% does include the 2 design build contracts that are utilizing the DBE open-ended performance plan. Those 2 projects have already met their commitment, so we're seeing a less commitments coming in for those 2 projects. So when we exclude those 2 open-ended performance projects, we're actually at about 7.5% at time of award. Now keep in mind this is only includes race-neutral DBs added during the reporting period. Just quickly looking at the numbers from last year to this year, we are a little low. Last year, we were at 8.6% during this time period. So we are a little low. Again, that's including the 2 open-ended performance. However, just quickly looking at some data, we did award roughly $40 million less in the 2-month period for October and November 2023 than we did of October 24 and November of 2024. So that would impact our DB opportunities and goal. So I wanted to briefly talk about race-neutral DB participation. So again, for those who are in attendance today, I just want to share that race-neutral DB participation below. And per the regulation, Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 49 CFR 26.51, agencies must meet the maximum feasible portion of their overall goal by using race-neutral means. So again, the race-neutral goal of our overall goal is 4.9%. So how do we achieve that again? Through DBE participation above and beyond a DB commitment. Again, that's a race-conscious project. And then by DB participation on FHWA funded contracts with a goal assessment of 0%, race-neutral projects. So what we're asking industry to do is help us with bringing on just 1 more DBE to accomplish as much race-neutral participation as possible. And again, that is a requirement of the Code of Federal Regulations 49 CFR Part 26 that govern the US DOT DB program. So on this slide, I just kind of wanted to highlight that there was new rules. I'm sure that everyone is aware, there were new rules that went into effect back on May 9th of 2024 for the US DOT DB program. With that being said, ADOT is currently updating our DB program plan and updating our DB contract language. So the DB contract language for ADOT construction contracts that are advertised by the contracts and specifications team, that's Kirsten Houston's team, those languages have been updated and they are available on our website. We are expecting those to be inserted into contract advertisements that were advertised on or after March 3rd of 2025, so yesterday. With that being said, there's going to be some new requirements for the bidders list, updated affidavit forms, but we will be getting out an email to the industry shortly to kind of highlight some of those updates. And again, I know we are out of time today, but do we have any questions with anything that I did present today or the team?
Gabe, I don't see anything in the chat or the Q&A. It's because you covered it so perfectly. Covered all the
Please reach out. Definitely. Thank you, Rebecca. Please
and I
reach
see
out.
Contact information right there. Gabe, thank you so much for your time and for your presentation. So thank you everybody who hung with us, even though we were pretty far over our stated time frame of 10:30. I will just wrap it up by saying thank you to all of our ADOT representatives. Thank you again to Cassandra, to Adrian with Combs Construction for being accessible and willing to assist in getting all these kind of technical parts of contract execution up to snuff. And we will be sending out the recording and all the slide decks. There's a lot of printed, not printed, but digital materials with tons of links. So thank you again. We will see you next quarter or hopefully at the DBE Expo. And again, just a reminder, the business development program applications are closing and all the other links and everything were in the chat today. So thank you again. Appreciate your time.